Now, does it take some special skill to be able to create the graphics? It would seem you need a bit of art talent at least.
Not a lot, but let me go to a blank sheet here and just show you how easy this is. I mean, and anybody in this program can kind of draw right along with this. So, for instance, if you're, let's just say that you're a manager and you have a flip chart in your table and you've got some people here and maybe you have somebody on the phone and whatever, and you're now at the point of the meeting where you want to have people make commitments. So if that manager stands up at the chart and actually is the one that writes down people's commitments, do you think these people here are going to think that that person heard them and remembered them and cared about them? Yes, you would. Now, if that person stands up and is able to draw a little human being, which is very simple, you just draw a circle, and then you throw a little hand out, and then you throw a little foot out, and then another foot out, and then another hand out. That is a pretty good little person. You add a couple of shadows, a little bit of consciousness. These kinds of drawings are something that anybody can do. They're little simple icons. So one of the things that some of the more effective leaders do is they don't get up and record whole meetings. That's what visual practitioners do. But they will, say, get up and explain some simple concept that's a key to their strategy. Like they might draw an S-curve and show the stages of and explain why they're moving from an entrepreneurial phase to a takeoff phase. You know, if I shifted to the next thing here, I mean, this is, most leaders who run companies would have this model in their mind about the way organizations grow and know that there are differences between these three stages. That in this stage, it's entrepreneurial and anything goes. In this stage, it's the growth stage, and you better get people on the bus or not on the bus. So this jumping from this culture to that culture in the S-curve is actually challenging. And this is the mature organization. And what you want to try to do is to extend its life. So a leader will often want to get up and do a little sketch, just like I did here, and explain to their team they're moving from this to that. Well, there are dozens of these concepts, which you now see PowerPoint is used rather universally. But what happens is that when this kind of thing is put into a PowerPoint and then you push a bunch of slides at people, they don't have the same kind of engagement. If you see somebody pick up a marker and draw.
So this is drawn in real time as opposed to PowerPoint, which is prepared before the meeting.
So I think for a leader, the main use of visualization is to explain a key concept that can be done in kind of simple sketches. But better yet, encourage other people to do drawings and things. So many of the most effective engagement processes are ones where you have small groups actually manifest. So, for instance, one of the ways that we do visioning, if you're trying to imagine future possibilities, is you get a number of small groups imagining that they have totally succeeded and they're now on the cover of an important magazine. And so you have them design the cover of the magazine, decide what the big headlines are, decide what the images are, actually imagine reading it, and when 4 or 5 small groups come back together and each tell the story, you can see right away across the 5 groups what themes are popping out for everybody.
And I think it's fair to say that the human mind in general tends to deal more in pictures than in words. Like when you dream at night, you're not seeing a stream of text going by.
No. Well, they say that something like 70 or 80% of our brain is actually processing visual imagery.
Now, there's some kinds of organizations which are more amenable to this approach than others. Is this better tailored for some types of groups than others?
I think ones that are having to deal with change.
Yes.
So if you say you're in a pretty static organization, you're not having to deal with a lot of new stuff. You can just focus in on small things. Words are pretty effective for that. It's when you're trying to look at new concepts or new areas that you're trying to explore. Pictures are very helpful to get what's in one person's mind out quickly. Because if you say, okay, tell us about it, and then go write a 5-page briefing paper, by the time it comes back, nobody understands it, and least of all the person who wrote the paper. But if you just say, okay, let's just all sit down together and tell us what you see. And either draw it, have that person draw it, or have somebody else draw it, and then they can say, well, it wasn't quite like that, move that over here. Suddenly, everyone's engaged, hearts and minds are engaged, and that's really what we're looking for here today. So many people in the workplace are disengaged with their work. They're just battered by these PowerPoint slides, these piles of reports, and it's like, where are the people? The human being has become an interruption to the work. It's kind of weird. Yeah. Aren't we the purpose for the work? What pictures do is put us back in the center, and our engagement with each other as the main purpose of why we live.
There are types of organizations which don't exercise as much. For instance, if you're dealing with numbers principally, you may be more used to looking at spreadsheets and things like that. But if you're in a firm that's designing products and stuff, you might be more used to graphics. But there are areas where what Maylene is talking about are absolutely essential. For instance, one of the common things almost any organization needs to deal with, nonprofits included, is listening to their customers and their constituents. And so one of the applications for visual facilitation is actually running sessions where you listen to the customer and then feed back the voice of the customer.
Dave, I'm afraid we're going to have to stop it there because I've just gotten the signal we're out of time. So I'd like to thank my two guests, David Sibbet of the Grove Consultants International, Maylin Fung of the Institute for Service Organization Excellence, talking about raising your visual IQ. Thank you for watching. Visit us next time. Visit our website, www.futuretalk.net. For Future Talk, I'm Marty Wasserman. Good night.